Good morning. It is 10:01 a.m. on Friday, February 21st, 2025. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. If everyone would please stand, Commissioner Mahler will give our invocation.
Thank you, Judge. Pray with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today to give you thanks for allowing us to live in the greatest country on the earth. We thank you for allowing us the freedoms to pray to our Lord and Savior. We thank you for the blessings that you've bestowed upon this county. We thank you for the blessings that you've bestowed upon this country. Lord, we just ask you to go with us and walk with us and direct us in the light of your life and help us do things that will be pleasing in your sight. We ask these things in the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for the pledge to the U.S. flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Everyone may be seated. We do not have any presentations this morning, so it is 10:03, and we will open up for public comments. Remind everybody that comments need to be limited to 5 minutes or less, and that the Commissioners Court cannot take action on any item brought up during public comment. Does anyone have any public comment this morning? Well, heck, three of y'all were just away at a conference. Y'all bursting with ideas, I would have thought.
You bet.
Oh, they're coming.
They're coming, all right. All right. Any public comment? Okay. It's 10:04, and public comment time is closed. That moves us to the consent agenda. There are 7 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions on any of the items?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the items? All right, that motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to item 1 in general business, a public hearing to consider the approval of a reinvestment zone with Nymphaea Solar LLC pursuant to Chapter 312 of the Texas Tax Code. I will note for the record that it is 10:05 for the commencement of this public hearing. I will set this up a little bit and then invite the representatives from the project to come up. We'll let them make a presentation, and then we will open it up for public comment. So I want to, before they come up and present on the project, I do want to commend the Samsung Nymphaea folks for a lot of the pre-work that they have done. When they originally approached me about this idea some months ago, I told them we need to make sure that Shepherd Air Force Base is good and that there are no issues with that would be detrimental to the mission out there. And then with how close it was to the city of Burke-Burnett, I wanted them to make sure they laid the groundwork with the city of Burke folks to make sure there weren't any issues, and if there were, to work through those. And they complied with both of those. In fact, they did a glint glare study to make sure that the panels that they were proposing wouldn't affect aircraft. And also a bird strike effect of whether or not these could potentially cause more birds to gather in that area, which would also potentially affect. The results of that also came back that it would not be. And in fact, Shepherd Air Force Base produced a memorandum indicating that they saw no issues with their operations due to this project. So I want to commend them because that was a lot of extra work and time and a lot of back and forth, and thank them for doing that. And then they also did work with the city of Burke-Burnett at the outset of this project to make sure that issues were addressed there. I think they're, just because of some turnover, some batons may not have been handed off, And so some of that will be discussed, I think, in the public hearing today as well. But I did want to say kudos to them for the work they've done on this so far in trying to pave a smooth path. So with that, I'll invite our folks from Samsung and Ernst & Young who are here to present on the project and turn it over to y'all. And if you would, before you speak, just introduce yourself for the record.
Absolutely. And we'll turn around too so we can address some of the court. But Judge, thank you so much for setting the stage for us today. Again, by way of introduction, I'm Evan Horn. This is Gerald Bird. This is Cameron Labatt. Cameron is with Samsung. He's the lead project developer on this. Ernst & Young is just supporting mainly from a tax consulting perspective in regards to the property tax abatement proposal that we've made to the court. And so as you mentioned, Judge, we'll jump into the project, give some high levels of the considerations of that, but then also maybe pointing out again the purpose of the public hearing today is to create a reinvestment zone. And just for the court's perspective, while you commissioners probably are very aware, for everybody else that's here that's not familiar with this process, this is just one of the transparent administrative procedures as part of the tax abatement process, that creating this zone, this boundary that's been defined that you saw in newspaper notices and it's under consideration today, if approved, doesn't guarantee that this project receives a property tax abatement, nor does it change how, say, the appraisal district handles it or how the landowner currently is taxed on this land. All it does is says potential improvements within this zone could be eligible to receive a tax incentive. So, our legislators put this process in place, so there are transparent public hearings like this, newspaper notices, et cetera. So again, we appreciate, having the opportunity to kind of discuss that zone here today. And the proposed improvements that could go within that zone, again, it's the Nymphaea Solar and Storage Project. So again, what we're talking about here is a utility scale solar and battery energy storage project. The solar is anticipated to be about 120 megawatts. The storage is going to be about 60 megawatts. Its duration is still under consideration, but in layman's terms, again, this is a utility scale project covering about 1,000 acres of land, but it would be able to generate and store enough electricity to power tens of thousands of homes. So again, very large scale project here. In the application that we produced with the court, again, the peak property tax values for both of these projects, we're talking about $190 million to around $200 million of investment. So again, very, very large scale. This wouldn't be any different if you've ever seen a solar farm before. Again, these are on single axis trackers that move with the sun. As well as battery energy storage is becoming more and more common, especially in this area as well. If you haven't seen it, it's basically clean Connex containers that are all self-contained with cooling, fire, all of those things in kind of nice orderly columns and rows that will be situated next to the project substation. So you might have seen one, and again, we can show visuals, another time if people request it. But once you see this next to a substation, it pretty much just looks like traditional transmission and distribution equipment. Once you see it, you kind of forget it, and it kind of blends in with the substation. But again, that's kind of the main proposal, right? A solar and storage facility getting close to about $190 million of investment for the county. If approved, and again, this is one of the big phases of development, we'll turn it over to Cameron to kind of talk about some more of the specifics or answer any questions. But if this project was approved and to move forward, we're kind of anticipating start of construction in early 2027. And then it's usually, a 12 to 18 month window to construct these facilities depending on weather and other factors. So you're looking at commercial operations occurring in kind of mid 2028. So for the court, for the taxing jurisdictions other that are here, again, if construction doesn't start until after January 1st of 2027, the first time that you would see a potential tax impact on your rolls would be tax year 2028. And then the full value, that 190-ish million, would be in 2029, kind of the tax year following it reaching commercial operations. As the judge mentioned, right, as part of the diligence processes, Cameron and the team have been working, to kind of understand wetlands, floodplains, anticipation on local roads, what they would need to use for ingress and egress, and we'd be glad to address any questions that we've got on that, as well as coordinating with the Air Force Base to make sure that they didn't have any concerns, and now, continued coordination with the city as well as they kind of evaluate some of their future plans. So I'll kind of pause there. That hopefully gives everybody a decent, overview of the project itself and what the court's considering today. Cameron, anything else you think I mentioned, or, Judge, we'll let other people speak and address questions if you'd like us to.
Cameron, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nothing else to add. He did a great job, but I will open the floor for questions if you need anything like specifically project related. They're more of the tax side, I'm more of the project development side. So any questions anyone has, I'm happy to answer.
And so the value of the property, the ag valuation on the property, how is that affected?
Great question. So yes, it would be anticipated that the ag values would get converted to commercial land. So there would be a rollback, but thankfully, again, through the lease, at least the lease option, it's not something that the landowner themselves would be responsible for paying. That's something that if the project was built, the project would pay those rollback taxes, which would benefit the county as well as the other jurisdictions involved. And then the ongoing taxes, you would then see, much, now that you're taxing a commercial, much higher taxes on those same parcels.
And the total parcel size combined is what?
It's right around 800 acres.
Okay.
Is that a 5-year rollback?
3, isn't it?
It's a 3-year now, yes, sir.
That's probably right.
I'd also like to just confirm too that total parcel size is not going to be the whole size of the project. The project is going to have a project fence, and anything within that project fence is the project. The rest of the land outside is going to go back to the landowner.
Still be ag.
Other questions from commissioners?
Is the egress and regress a challenge?
Like project access?
Yeah.
No, sir.
It's really, to answer y'all, it's really good. It's all state access highway. There won't be any county roads involved.
Yeah.
It's really a pretty good project for that part of it.
Yeah,
Simple
'cause
textile.
it'll see heavy use there for, during the construction phase,
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah.
Correct, yes, sir. We have to get a TxDOT permit for the
Yeah,
access
okay.
road.
So they're in the loop too. which
Yes, sir.
is good, that's good.
With the storage batteries, is there any additional fire concern as far as fire services?
Sure. I actually had a meeting with the fire chief and some city officials yesterday. We talked about that, and I kind of explained, so these battery systems, they're all totally sealed, they're enclosed, explosion-proof containers, right? They vent if there's too much heat. The batteries themselves can also vent, they can self-isolate. There's a software that controls it 24/7, 365, with someone also monitoring that as well. Fire suppression systems within the unit. So whenever they tested these batteries, they purposely tried to start a fire in these containers. They overloaded the batteries. Once they hit a certain temperature, I don't know exactly, it might be 400-ish degrees, the battery automatically shuts off, isolates, starts to vent all that heat and pressure. Then I think 150 or 200 degrees higher is when you would start that fire. It actually never got to that point. There was no smoke, there was no fire, there was no explosion inside or outside of the container. As far as water goes, we are talking about maybe helping with a project that the city has that would expand water access to our site. We don't require it for our use, but it might be beneficial for everyone if we can make that work. So we're in talks with the city. I'm in talks with Samsung to see if we can make something like that happen. But as far as fire concerns go, there didn't seem to be anything.
So no real additional burden to the fire departments?
No special equipment or
No
anything they
special
would need to.
equipment or-
Correct, yeah. I think the city said that they're gonna be the first to respond because it's so close to them, and they have better equipment than, I guess the county response would be something along those lines. So, yeah, there didn't seem to be any major concern about a fire event. There's also, I guess you'd call it fire breaks. Around the perimeter fence, we clear vegetation. Where the batteries sit, there is no flammable material. They sit on a concrete pad with, limestone rock all around it. So we do mitigate everything beforehand so nothing happens during the project.
Is the power to go off premises or will it be on-site consumption?
Directly to the grid. So we just make the power, put it in the grid, and it goes with the grid, flows.
A lot of those things being built now, it's all on-site. They're not, not exporting any of it, so.
Yeah, so whenever we develop these projects, we just develop it as a connection directly to the grid. We don't develop it with any, expansion in mind. We're not gonna add wind to it. If someone comes along and wants to partner, like let's say they find out the project is in development and they want to partner with us, we'll consider that. But that's a whole separate process, so.
Well, the battery situation makes it a lot more grid friendly, doesn't it?
It does, and it's actually good for project economics, because sometimes, the transmission system can't handle the amount of power that we're putting. So instead of getting curtailed and having everything not producing electricity, it can be stored in the batteries and then discharged later, so we don't lose electricity or efficiency.
I think getting it delivered now is one of the big challenges from what I'm hearing from
Yeah.
people is the grid system. I guess it'll eventually get filled up, but,
The way the batteries are kind of working right now in ERCOT, instead of investing, I don't even know how many billions of dollars to upgrade the grid, these battery systems are kind of a cheap way to stabilize and almost act kind of like a substation sort of, and just help stabilize the whole transmission system. So that's why they're so popular. That's why you see them co-located in
when you
most
think
projects.
about the right of ways to go to the heavy populated area, that would be a slow process, I would think.
Slow and expensive, yes, sir.
Yeah, very inexpensive.
Yes.
Be pretty tough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know that solar is handled differently from wind, and so that's why I'm asking the question, because I can't remember. Are there bonding requirements in the state law on a project like this? Because y'all obviously don't have the concrete blocks that go tens of feet down into the dirt like the wind turbines do, but is that something that y'all are required to do, or is that just a landowner lease?
When you say,
Cleanup bond.
Cleanup.
Yeah.
like a decommissioning?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's the state of Texas law, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is something in there that if y'all shut down in 15 years, y'all have to take it back to
Correct, yes,
ground
sir.
level.
We take everything back out. We take, photos and everything before we disturb the site, bring it back to where it was before, yes.
And that's including all concrete,
Yes,
conduit.
that's everything that we improve the land.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would assume we would want this reinvestment zone to follow the same guidelines we've taken. Tommy, and you help me with this, where those boundary lines and property description lines are vitally important in putting one of those together. We'd wanna respect that, because we learned our lesson on those over the last few years. What happens is you get one of those jumping over several property boundaries, it becomes very difficult to break that back out if some of that sells, and we wanna make sure that's all done correctly up front. I assume that would be like one single parcel
Correct,
that you're talking about, which makes it a lot simpler.
Yes. Yeah.
Just wanna make sure we're on board with that, because we decided that going forward, we're gonna look at that a lot closer
I
than we did in the
understand.
past.
And again, that was kind of one of the diligence items too that the judge brought up to address that concern, Commissioner, that the boundaries that were drawn, again, because there is some small portions of these parcels that do go into the city limits. None of the
Right.
project is anticipated to go in city limits. So that's why we had the specific survey done drawing the boundaries of those parcels, excluding any of those, parts that went into city limits.
We found that it's a lot better to fix a bunch of that going in than it is to come in on the backside and try to straighten it up. So just a note to make sure we've addressed that.
And I will remind, especially some of the folks who may be watching who aren't as aware of the process as the court is, but we're doing the reinvestment zone today. If the court approves the reinvestment zone, then the next step is to actually negotiate an abatement and then bring that up before the court as well. So there's still some runway here before a final thing is
Now,
done.
will any of this project lap into the TIF zone in the city of Burke-Burnett?
No.
Yeah, there is
It's
an existing one in.
totally excluded from that?
Matter of fact, it's totally excluded from the city of Burke-Burnett. The city limits, all except for the access point is the only piece, and it's not included in the reinvestment zone.
Well, that simplifies things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So 50,000 foot view, what's a TERS? Tax reinvestment zone.
Well, that's sort of what Evan was doing from the front end.
What you're considering today?
Yeah.
Or,
Oh, no.
okay, I didn't know if you were talking about the
What-
other zone. and
What
that was-
what's a tax reinvestment zone allow
Yes.
us to do? or
Yep.
y'all to do?
So that would allow, again, kind of the conversation to continue. So if a proposed tax abatement agreement on the project, came for you to consideration, you would see in that, an exhibit of that agreement,
Right.
you would see the zone that was created by the court.
Okay.
And anything inside a zone is eligible, that doesn't mean you guarantees it, but they are eligible
Eligible.
to receive a tax abatement.
This,
I'm just trying to clear it up for.
Sure. So
Yes.
the state set up essentially a two-step process where they wanted, if their economic incentives were going to be offered by local government subdivisions, they wanted it to be in areas where it wasn't just a throw on top of things.
Right.
It was a place where without those incentives, it was unlikely for economic development to happen. And so, again, for transparency, and they created a two-step process of create the zone, because there might be places where you create a whole area that could use economic incentives and economic development. This just happens to be one where the zone and the project overlap, but it's the first step in the two-step process.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
No,
for clarification.
Yeah, just making sure everybody understands what we're doing.
Yeah.
So,
So the
Thank you
footprint
for
of the
that.
zone and the footprint of the project is gonna be identical, what I'm hearing you say. That was, yeah, okay, that simplifies things a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Thank y'all. Hang around in case there's questions that come up or stuff that you
Absolutely, thank
want to
you.
address. All right, at this time, I'll open up the floor for public comment. I'll invite representatives from the city of Burke-Burnett up first. I know that they've got a letter they want to read into the record for the public hearing, and maybe some other comments.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Judge and Commissioners. My name's Lindsay McNabb Fox. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Burke-Burnett. And at the request of the Board of Commissioners, our city attorney drafted a letter in response to the public hearing for today. So I'll read this letter as the city attorney. So, dear Judge Johnson, I am the city attorney for the City of Burke-Burnett. I write about a reinvestment zone that has been requested by Nympia Solar LLC as developer for a photovoltaic facility and battery storage facility within the Burke-Burnett extraterritorial jurisdiction. It is my understanding that this project is set for public hearing at the Wichita County Commissioners' agenda on February 21st, 2025. The project involves substantial properties, almost 700 acres, and is located in the northeast part of Burke-Burnett's ETJ, abutting its city limits. These properties and this proposed development appear to be approximately a fifth of the size of the city of Burke-Burnett. The project is massive and likely will have multiple ramifications to the city. I'm asking for the city to be included in all discussions about this development and to inform the county developer and property owner that the city intends to apply its subdivision regulations to the property, require platting of the properties, and dedication of planned city thoroughfares that are located in the properties. On behalf of the city of Burke-Burnett, I'm requesting this letter to be included in the public hearing and the minutes of the county commissioners meeting.
End of the letter.
Yes, sir.
Lindsay, did you or did anyone else from the city have anything to add beyond the letter?
No, that's all.
Okay.
So,
Y'all have any questions?
I do.
sir.
Expand on the subdivision regulations.
Okay, so
What would you require of the zone?
So of that, because this is in our ETJ, we have an agreement with the county that the city requires all to be replatted. So part of the one of the parcels is in the city limits and part of it's out in the county. And so since we're dividing that, we'll replat that. And then I don't really know what all goes into that process, but then that would give us the right-of-ways that are part of that planned future use for our city.
And how does that work under lease terms for owners of that property versus the developers not being owners of the property?
Yes, sir. So Mike Alpers, our Development Services Director.
All the plating and stuff will be on the owner of the property. It doesn't affect the lease or anything like that. The only part that we're trying to do is some of our future land use has thoroughfares that go through that property. And all we're trying to do is enter the discussions because we haven't been involved. At some point, the previous city managers was involved in these conversations, but that's not been brought to us. And so we're just trying to get into some of these conversations so we can at least attempt. We talked about a water line that we would like to see go down that property. And I understand the fire is not that much of a concern for them, but we would like to have fire hydrants available for our fire departments and stuff along that corridor. And that benefits us later also. And so, but the future land use does show thoroughfares, and I think we've kind of worked this out with them. We did, once we started this, we're able to have a conversation with them, but that's just been in the last couple of days. And so, again, up until that point, our first notice of what was going on was when we received the letter from the county. And so that's what brought us to this point. So, and I'm not sure if I answered all your questions, but you can, if you have some more, I'll answer.
No, I think Michael Beck.
To answer that, they didn't learn about it until I brought it to their attention in some meetings we were having. And that water line is an additional thing outside of this, outside of the Samsung deal at all, that me being on the TIF board and the BDC and being active with the city of Burke, I thought it was something that would probably benefit everybody involved. It's just something I'm putting out there for everybody to look at, not involved with this deal.
When I talked about the baton not being handed off, that's what I was referencing.
Right.
None of these three, no one that's currently with the city of Burke Burnett was part of the conversations that happened 6 months ago, 7 months ago with Samsung, because we're trying to get everybody on the same page at that point. Unfortunately, there wasn't a handoff of information. And so they have already been in discussions. I think they're working through any potential issues that might be there.
And again, we want to see the project go through. We're not against the project. We're just trying to work out the details and be included in the conversations.
But at the same time, you don't want to landlock something behind it.
That's correct.
And but I can see where a right-of-way or an easement might really cause headaches for the project manager.
Well,
So there's.
we already have an easement across it, and so we're hoping that maybe we can just expand that a little bit and give us a crossing across it. But like I said, we're in discussions with that, so. Thank you.
And again, the letter was just to make sure that we're involved in the conversations because, again, like Judge said, we were just recently made aware of it with the past city manager leaving and everyone kind of being blindsided. I don't mean to say that as a negative thing, just because we're all pretty new in our positions. So, yeah.
Well, the person that was talking to him is not there anymore. So
Yes, sir.
I see how that happens.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Owen, did you want to say anything, or you don't have to? Just okay.
And they, Cameron and Evan answered most of my questions.
Do you mind coming forward where the mic can be?
Superintendent for Burke Burnett ISD. Of course, we're the other taxing entity that would be involved in this, and we've had zero communication. So the first thing we got was a letter 3 or 4 days ago about this. So anyway, I had visited with Cameron and Evan. We're going to talk a little bit more because obviously that plays a big role on us, both on our M&O side because it's going to compress what we can do. It's going to increase our value, which will compress state aid, which is kind of a wash on that side. But then on our INS side, and then talking with them, so they're going to give me depreciation values because that's big on solar because it depreciates very rapidly. And so again, it is obviously important to us because we are looking at a bond in the not too distant future. So having known about this a little bit ahead of time might have changed some of the timelines that we were doing, so we would have appreciated that, but that's all hindsight now. So they're going to work with me moving forward, so I'll be communicating with them as much as possible. So that was kind of our biggest
I did not
issues.
understand that the school was affected by an abatement?
There's not an abatement with the school district.
Okay.
There is no longer abatement to
Yeah,
the
that's
school
not
district.
possible.
Yep. Chapter 313 agreements went away in 2022.
So
So your abatement does not apply to me.
Right.
Yeah.
what his issues, because there isn't, just the values going up like they would affects state aid in the
We're
form
getting
of-
ready to increase homestead exemptions to another 150 now.
Actually, the opposite effect, yeah.
And,
Yeah, it will compress our state aid because our value goes up.
and Dr. Owen, I'll just apologize to you here, because y'all weren't affected by an abatement, that didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not.
We're a very large taxing
Yes.
entity.
Wouldn't have thought.
So it would just would have been nice to know ahead of time,
Yeah.
for my school board and I would be thinking about.
Well, and
different.
this is why in the eternal wisdom of the legislature, it's a two-step process.
Yeah.
Because now we have this hearing
Yeah.
on the reinvestment zone, and
Right.
we can, if there are things that need to be worked out and conversations to have before the abatement comes up, those can
Yeah, it
happen.
will help because a lot of the things, like I said, that they'll be able to provide me will help when I have my conversation with our financial advisors and investors and our tax attorneys too, so that we time out specifically when we might go out for bond to obviously capitalize on this project. So again, not against the project, it can be a win-win.
No.
Timing is what's key to us.
And I'll own
Yeah.
that for not the lack of communication. I apologize.
Yes, no problem. Appreciate it though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, I've got one more question. Are there any concerns on drainage from this property?
Cameron, you have to come
Yeah.
up to make sure the mic hears you.
Sometimes we don't look far enough ahead to think how that's gonna affect the drainage in the area and all. Have y'all studied that?
Yes, sir. We had a hydrology study done and a drainage report, and I believe it was someone from the city. It was a long time ago, like 6, 7 months ago. But we had the conversation about the drainage, and everything just tends to flow back towards the backside of the project. There's no impact to the city.
Not gonna change the
Correct.
deal. I was just curious, sometimes we kinda overlook that till the first big rain comes and then so that's good. I'm glad we've studied that.
And the
That's
good news
important.
is that's part of every single project. It's just like a standard procedure, right? You have to get your permits, you have to do your studies.
Yeah.
All that's kind of looped in with those studies.
I assume that all drains back toward the river.
It
maybe.
is all on the
Yeah.
banks of the river,
That's
and
what
that
I'm
all's, it's
Yeah.
all natural flow.
Good, I'm glad we looked at it, because like I say, sometimes I think in the past, we've not thought about that as much as we should, and we don't want to create, some runoff problems and all, so that's good,
Absolutely.
very good.
All right. Any other questions? All right, I'll open up for anyone else that would like to make public comment for, against, or on the reinvestment zone. All right. Any other questions from commissioners? No. Okay. Then it is 10:34, and we'll close this public hearing. That brings us to item number 2, discuss, consider, and/or take action to authorize the county judge to sign a resolution approving reinvestment zone number 1 with Nymphaea Solar LLC.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Beecham, to authorize the county judge to sign a resolution approving reinvestment zone number 1 with Nymphaea Solar LLC. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right. And everyone who was here for that night, you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to go at this time. We know some folks have other stuff they need to do. So
Thank you.
thank you all. Thank you, everyone. All right, item number 3 is review and approve the regular bills for payment, verify payroll taxes have been filed, and order county treasurer to disperse payroll and/or bills within 72 hours via U.S. mail, FedEx, UPS, or electronically, unless directed otherwise, or may be picked up and ledgered in the treasurer's office.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon, to approve, verify, and disperse. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 4, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve and ratify the minutes of the February 11, 2025 regular session.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Muller, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon, to approve and ratify the February 11, 2025 minutes. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 5, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve Keenan Stubblefield as a non-compensated reserve deputy constable to assist Constable Precinct Number 2. I'll ask Constable Burchett to come up and present on this item. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are y'all?
Good.
This is my second term, taking over again as constable, being elected in. Having an additional reserve deputy is no new thing. Precinct 2 has had throughout the years past, pulling up our TCOL records that go all the way back to 1989. We've had a combination of 3 to 2 reserve deputies working in our office. This year, 2025, taking over, looking at our numbers, and obviously life is getting busier, and looking for an assistance with Mr. Stubblefield. So in 2021, our numbers were at 544 papers served with 303 attempts. So that's making a total of 847 contacts, right? Being out and getting out and trying to attempt these papers. 2022, we recorded 728 papers served, 417 attempts with a total of 1,145 contacts. 2023, moving along, and I've only been able to keep records since I've been in office. 803 papers served with 442 attempts, so it's 1,245 attempts or contacts served. Last year we were on record, and then about November when the holidays hit, we actually slowed down. Was able to catch our breath. So we were at 745 papers with 400 attempts, so we're at 1,149 this year. We're seeing an uptick with that. And so I reached out to Judge and asked him what the requirements are. Texas Local Government Code 86.012, Reserve Deputy Constable, states that the Commissioner's Court may authorize to appoint a reserve deputy and may limit the number of reserve deputies. We couldn't find that there was a limit on there, but just out of respect, I'd like to come to you guys and ask for that be granted. Keenan Stubblefield's got 11 years of service. He started out with the Sheriff's Office in the jail. Excuse me. Worked up towards the Burnett Police Department where he was a canine officer. He had an accident where he got hit on the side of the road. And from there he was able to get hired on by the school district as the police chief there, and he created that agency from the ground up to where now they have 5 officers. He had some medical issues, and he had to medically retire from the police department. That was over a year ago. He's gone back and been reevaluated. He's good to go into the reserve status, and so that's why I'm coming here today to ask for assistance with that.
Constable, the only question I had, and you may not know this yet, I know that if you've got multiple reserve deputy constables, you can either execute a blanket surety
Yes, sir.
bond.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you plan to do,
Yes,
or
sir.
have them taken
Yeah,
individually?
just do one blanket. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Jared, do you know how workman's comp is handled on a guy like that?
As far as a reserve,
Yeah, do you know, Matt?
I'm not.
I'm pretty sure that the county would have to pay the workers' comp because
What-
it's performing duties on behalf of the county.
Let me ask this, because here's what the code says. The county and the constable do not incur any liability by reason of the appointment of a reserve deputy constable. If the reserve deputy constable incurs a personal injury while serving in that capacity. Would liability there envision workers' compensation, Melvin, do you think?
I
Or
think it probably would.
I think it probably would.
Yeah, but I don't know the exact answer.
Right.
to that.
Yeah.
You just have to use an arbitrary number, Matt, when you calculate that?
I think so, yes, sir.
Do you,
I don't think that, based on the statute, I don't think that we would
Yeah, I don't think we
be
would.
liable.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I
So
don't
we
know.
wouldn't even have to
Zero.
do the
Right.
arbitrary number.
Right.
Okay.
So you're saying that the county still be liable if He's out serving papers.
No, he's
No,
not.
the
According to
county's not.
statute, we're not.
It's
That was-
not liable.
That was my question, because.
The county would be the county might potentially have liability if he does something to the public, but not for not for injury that happens to the deputy.
Serving
Reserve
papers
deputy.
can be a sketchy deal from time to time, I understand.
And I don't know
That was
that, I
my
mean,
first
truthfully, I don't know if
concern.
he'd want to do it if he didn't have any kind of liability.
Say that again, Mick?
I don't know that he would want to do it if he would have no liability. As an officer going and knocking on doors, I've done a lot of knocking on doors. Things happen really fast sometimes when you knock on the door. It could be anything. So
It's
if,
just
let's say that he,
sketchy deal, yeah.
let's say that he gets assaulted on somebody's front porch. We don't have any coverage for him, for workers' comp or anything like that. I mean, that's a big risk to take. If we're not gonna cover him, we're not gonna cover him, but I don't understand why you would volunteer for it, to do it for free if you're not having to get coverage.
Most of them do it to keep their police license active, is the reason why they reserve.
Only thing that concerns me is a non-paid employee, what are all that we're gonna have to pay for? I mean, he don't have to have uniforms, he's just a reserve. I mean, I wanna know what all we're gonna have to pay for. Computers, cars,
I mean, we do wear
equipment.
a shirt or something.
Yeah, we wear polos that have the logo on them. I've got a budget for that. The computer, I've already got a reserve deputy. The only thing I'm doing is adding an additional, so we're not having to purchase anything new. I've already got a vehicle. All I have to do is just have 2 logins for the computer, get him an email. I already have a cell phone that's assigned, which is required by TCO. And when they come into work, there's a body camera, puts it on his work and goes, when he comes
So-
back, he takes it off and the other
Both-
reserve. Yes.
Both
Yes,
use
sir.
same equipment, is what I'm
Yes, sir.
getting at.
Yeah.
That's
Oh.
what
You envision it working, they wouldn't both be at the same time, if they'd be filling alternate
Correct.
slots.
There might be times they're together, but again, there's already 2 sets of everything in there, so if they are together, we're covered, yes, sir.
What about driving a county vehicle? Is there any liability problem there? For
Well, I mean, as a,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it could,
And I
The
know-
short answer is yes.
you know, 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been asking some of these questions, but now, due to experiences that we've all
well,
encountered.
is he considered,
Yeah.
though, a county
He's an agent.
person, agent?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Does the sheriff's office have reserves anymore? Are we all?
on paper.
Okay.
so we would assume the liability for anything that he caused.
That's why
Yeah,
I
that's why
said
it's
what I
the
said
bond,
earlier,
yeah.
yeah.
But
But if he was involved in an accident,
Yeah.
we wouldn't cover his
we wouldn't,
medical bills or
no,
anything
we're
like
under
that.
no obligation to cover his.
Right.
Just the regular automobile end of it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Like I say, we wouldn't have had to ask these questions years ago, and now, due to experiences that have come along, you think of all kinds of possibilities.
Any other questions?
No, I looked at what you had, Jim, and I didn't see anything that, especially Jarrett Workham in tandem. However, there was just no reason if that makes it better. I mean, nothing prohibits that from happening.
And this is his first job back since from medical.
Correct.
And he's all cleared medically to go
Medically
back.
cleared.
Yeah, we'll have to do his he's got the 180, greater than 180 days break of service, so we'll have to go through and get all of his L1, L5 and all that squared away, which covers that requirement.
All right, motion to approve.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Commissioner Kincannon, seconded by Commissioner Beecham to approve Keenan Stubblefield as a non-compensated reserve deputy constable to assist Constable Precinct Number 2. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Constable, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item
And
number.
tell him thank you, too.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna ask this, when he when he does get all of the stuff that he has to go through now to become not active, but I think you know what I'm asking.
Yes.
Will you just let us know so that we, or let me know and I can let them know so that we know he's actively working? And
Yeah, I'll do that, then I'll bring him up here one afternoon. And
That'd be great.
That'd be nice.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 6, discuss, consider, and/or take action to award indigent disposition of remains bids. I believe that Tana sent over, and Morgan made sure it was in the packet, the spreadsheet for the bids. I hope everyone's had a chance to look at those. If you haven't, take some time. When I was looking at them, it seemed like a very clear-cut difference in price.
I thought it looked pretty different
Yeah.
when we wrote it.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve text line.
I'll second.
It's considerably better value.
All right, Commissioner Beecham made the motion, Commissioner Fincannon seconded, to award the indigent disposition of remains contract to Text Line Mortuary. And now at this point, as y'all are well aware, once we've approved them, I'll negotiate the agreement, which will look almost identical to the one that we had last year on disposition, and then we'll bring that before the court to formally approve the final contract. But that's the motion for Text Line. Do we have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, the motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item number 7, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve and accept total loss offer from TAC for a sheriff's office vehicle as follows. 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe, the VIN number listed, actual cash value $25,069.92, less deductible $5,000 for an offer of $20,069.92, or 2020 Chevrolet Tahoe, the VIN number listed, actual cash value $25,069.92, minus a salvage value of $4,500 and a deductible of $5,000 for an offer of $15,569.92. Chief, did you want to address which of these y'all prefer in the state of the vehicle?
Yes, sir. You can get rid of it. The 2019 that we kept on the last agenda is, they're pretty much identical to the 2020s. So we have that salvage car. Get rid of this one.
Do we know, and I know it's a trick, it may be difficult, but like what do we carry the value for in insurance on this particular car? What are we paying for value versus what we're receiving? Do you know?
I don't. We've got that spreadsheet. We could pull up the list. Y'all don't have the spreadsheet on you, so we can find out. In fact, Kenneth, if you would, when we get out of court, will you just look up the list and see the answer Commissioner Watt's question? Because I think you're bringing this up because if we are carrying a much larger value than we know that they're actually worth based on, we've got plenty of data recently to know, are we overpaying?
Yeah, are we overpaying?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think I remember TAC addressing this the last time the pool was here, where those value numbers don't really play into the premium amount that they give us because it's all pooled, but I could be just making stuff up.
I don't think it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
That's the deal. Do we, Matt, do we choose value or is that assigned value?
To sign.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
what I
Assign
thought.
it, and they depreciate it
Yeah.
per year.
But
Because
we
the-
assign it. We assign the
Well,
value.
But I think the way this works is they go find what like value. It's
Yes.
a complicated process, which for a patrol car, I would think would be somewhat difficult, more than just a 2020 Tahoe.
But what
would be
they're,
pretty simple.
but that's on the payout, Barry, on the collection
Right.
of premium, they're taking new value, or they'd like to have us list new value, and, you know, it's
So
really,
These two things should be the same.
really,
Cash
they
value
should be
and
close to
Yeah.
the same.
if we're paying based on that.
If we're
And that's
paying
what I
based
don't-
on that.
For some reason,
And-
that's rolling around in the back of my head.
And we had,
Discussion.
and this is another deal I guess we should take a look at on the insurance side, but it came up about, we had large discussions with FEMA and emergency management planning at our conference. And they kept referring to insurance policies, and we really don't have an insurance policy. We have a risk policy
Right.
that's, and I wondered, was there gonna be any questions about that when the trigger was pulled?
Well, I think the real difficulty here is finding a comp value on an equipped police cruiser would, well, like I say, would be a lot more difficult than going and finding a comp value on a X number of miles on a 2020 Tahoe.
Right,
That's
right.
pretty simple. They're everywhere.
Right.
But there's not that many to choose from, and
Right.
that'd be a difficult deal.
And we mark on there too, the value of the Tahoe, and then we put additional equipment
Right.
listing as well, so we're paying
Oh,
both.
so that's
on-
set
Yeah,
aside.
That's
it
set
is.
aside,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, that makes a difference.
Our
Well,
I
2020,
guess the question is, do we need the salvage?
No.
Yeah.
We've got one, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
our
There's,
tw-
there's enough difference between the 2024s and the 2020s that it wouldn't be
not
worth
gonna-
keeping.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Our 2025 payment to the Texas Association of Counties for liability insurance for vehicles for the county was $343,928, which included just specifically that for all of our law enforcement of almost $160,000. So
That was just law enforcement vehicle?
yeah,
That's half, more than half.
yep. But it doesn't have a breakout of the per vehicle calculation.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'll have to get it from them because I don't have it, but I can get it.
Okay.
Motion to approve option number one.
Second.
Second. Oh,
Third.
Well, we don't need the salvage.
I do know, I recently asked about it, and they have a program that I guess they use to depreciate the vehicles every year, and that's how they come up with a value for them. So,
And that's, I think, what I'm remembering is
Yeah.
they're just figuring it, and it doesn't even matter what we have as the list.
Well, and the part where it stood out to me was when we had our backhoe stolen. I was paying on insurance on a $15,000 backhoe, which is what they wanted to give me for it. I quickly knew that my backhoe was probably underpaid and I had more value, but since I was only paying $15,000, that's all they wanted to give me for it, and they paid me.
heavy equipment is different because they
Oh,
don't
okay.
have a way of depreciating it. So it is different than vehicles are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different system they use. Yeah.
Well, if they depreciate our premium, it's on the same scale as the value. That's not.
No, it goes the other way.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I don't think it works that way.
Someone else saying something? All right, got a motion by Commissioner Fincannon, seconded by Commissioner Beecham to accept offer one, the just deductible, not the salvage value, for $20,069.92. Do you have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 8, discuss, consider, and/or take action to rescind Court Order 25.0204.079 that approved enterprise fleet management quotes for the purchase of two 2025 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 trucks for Constable Precinct 1. So this is an item that we approved the purchase of those two trucks, I think a couple of weeks ago. Since then, the hard work of various folks, the constable's office and Mr. Dodson, were able to figure out that there was a less expensive outfitter option that was also going to get the vehicles in quicker. However, that means that the court order for the quote now was to the wrong entity. So this one goes with number 9, but I thought the cleanest way to do it was to just rescind number
I make the motion to rescind.
Okay. And second. All right, we have a motion to rescind Court Order 25.0204.079 from Commissioner Watts, seconded by Commissioner Fincannon. Have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion is before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries
Just make sure the
5-0.
ones that we're looking at don't come without a heater.
It's an optional
Would cheapen it up a
charge.
little bit.
Yeah.
Item number 9, discuss, consider, and/or take action to approve and issue a purchase order for Enterprise Fleet Management quote number 8649584 in the amount of $64,364.85 for the purchase and upfit of 2025 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 truck, and quote number 8649488 in the amount of $62,084.85 for the purchase and upfit of a 2025 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 truck, both for Constable Precinct 1 office, to be paid from Department 409 General Fund contingencies with lines determined by the county auditor. I will say that this was a achieved savings of $2,800 when you put the two together.
So moved.
And,
Yeah, second.
and I had a question
Yes,
here.
sir.
What is basically, and Van, you may know, the cost of the upfit, roughly?
One of the trucks was approximately $13,000 and the other truck was a little over $11,000.
Okay. Because I was just comparing to the truck we bought, but that would pull them pretty close. And these are 2025s, and I think ours was a 2024, which was 47,000. And of course, it didn't have upfit, but, well, it does have upfit, and that was about 10,000.
What do they do besides bumper guard, grill guard, whatever?
Well, it has some internal stuff too, doesn't it?
Internal stuff, light packages for the exterior.
Okay.
It's not the full pursuit package and everything that the patrol vehicles have. It's a modified version of that. And it's 13.5 for one and 11.2 for the other. Good job. All right, got a motion by Commissioner Beecham, seconded by Commissioner Mahler, to approve and issue the two purchase orders for a cost of $64,364.85 and $62,084.85 to come out of Department 409. Have any questions or comments on the motion or the item? All right, that motion's before us. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 10, receive update on courthouse renovations and county courthouse annexes. Commissioner Beecham?
Still on punch list items on all three projects here in downtown. Iowa Park is looking good. Wonder how many people it takes to stand around a hole looking at a water meter, though. After watching it for 15 minutes and watching it not move.
It's very exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was. But that project's coming along nicely. They're getting walls in and the steel stood. We're waiting on skinning the steel, and it's moving along as expected, so.
Did they
Mark,
ever
after-
figure out the water bill?
Still working on it.
Walking through that, that is gonna be so much more of a functional building than
Oh,
we've
yeah.
had in the past. It's really gonna be, I think we're gonna be very happy with the outcome. Like, you finally see what it's gonna be because we got sheet rock up. That's when you can really tell,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where you are. It's gonna be much better.
Yeah, it's gonna be a nice
We're not gonna have
change
any
for
water
us.
there, but
Well, we've pumped enough for an Olympic swimming pool now, so.
We've actually got it in a storage tank we built and ready to go.
yeah.
Oh, goodness. We're still working on that issue, by the way.
It is
Hopefully
a-
we'll get it resolved by the time it opens, so.
It is a mystery, I'm telling you.
It
doesn't
is.
make any sense, but anyway.
All right, anything else, Commissioner?
No.
Any questions on renovations? Well, all right. It is 11 o'clock on the dot, and Commissioner's Court is adjourned.